both of his dudes in FBG got caught by the police in trap spots. That's a little bit confusing to me, Chad. One guy basically just liquidated like his musical fame, got $100 million, and he's spending buying this, that, and third, tricking on women, doing whatever he does. And then the rest of the team, they're keep getting caught in drug spots. That's kind of confusing. Ain't that confusing, Chad?
The headlines made it sound simple. Future's blood brother arrested in a massive federal sting. But the truth behind that headline is much darker, deeper, and way more personal than anybody outside that circle ever expected. Because what happened wasn't just a criminal case. It was the collapse of a family structure that had been cracking quietly for years while the entire world assumed everything was good. From the outside, it looked like Future was living the perfect life. Miami mansions, diamond chains, private jet trips, $100 million catalog deal. The image of a superstar who conquered the game and moved far beyond the struggles of his past. But behind all that flashing success, something poisonous was growing inside the very foundation that helped build free bands. His blood brother Casino, Recco Wilburn, wasn't just hanging around in the shadows. According to federal paperwork, he was allegedly operating at full capacity, maintaining active trap houses, running distribution lanes, and storing massive quantities of illegal product. Not street level, not petty, serious weight. The type of numbers the government treats like terrorism, not hustling. When the feds raided that Forest Park Airbnb, they didn't walk in blind. They moved like people reading from a script they had rehearsed for months. The way they executed the entry, the confidence in their timing, the targeted rooms, it all pointed to one thing. This wasn't luck. This was intelligence. Someone had fed them everything they needed. And that's where the whispers began. Not accusations, not confirmed facts, but whispers. Because behind every federal takedown is someone talking. People online kept asking the same question on repeat. If Future got all this money, why he ain't pull his people out the streets? Why he ain't save his own brother? But the truth nobody wants to say out loud is way uglier than any rumor. Because what happened inside FBG wasn't just struggle. It was tension, years of pressure, silenced arguments, money issues, loyalty getting blurry, and jealousy mixing with pride the way gasoline mixes with fire. When you connect the dots, young Scooter's tragic death in 2020, Casino's rising legal issues, the scattered disputes inside the crew, and Future's sudden shift into massive corporate wealth, you start seeing a picture that isn't about abandonment at all. It's about a family structure collapsing under the weight of success, secrets, and street ties that never fully got cut. Atlanta has been whispering about this situation because nothing about it feels random. Not the timing, not the people involved, not the scale of what the feds discovered, and definitely not the way they moved in perfect formation. This wasn't a crash that came out of nowhere. This was a slow-motion disaster happening in front of everyone, hidden under diamonds, 808 drums, and Instagram highlights. And now the truth is finally falling into the open. More details, more connections, and more uncomfortable revelations are coming. When you see them, you may never look at Future, Casino, or free bands the same way again. Before we go further, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this real-life story unfolding in real time.
Yeah, these guys are drug dealers. Like, shit, I mean, 4K, they got this is kind of shocking to me. How is Future's blood brother, like, selling drugs? Like, this don't make no sense. You got Scooter running out of a trap spot, Casino selling drugs, and now I'm hearing there's another guy named Lil Double O, he's selling drugs. What's going on? Yo, Future, all it takes, take $10 million of that $100 million you got, and just give them, yo, 2 for you, 2 for you, 3 for you. Get these niggas out of the bando, bro.
The night of November 14th, 2025 didn't just change Casino's life, it changed the entire Wilburn family forever. What looked like a simple arrest from the outside was actually the end of a long, quietly unfolding federal investigation tied to a nationwide crackdown called Operation Takeback America. This wasn't local police acting on a tip. This was the FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security moving together, which alone tells you the magnitude of what they believed they were dealing with. At exactly 10 p.m., agents pulled up to an Airbnb in Forest Park, Georgia, a property Casino was using as a temporary hideout. They didn't move like they were searching. They moved like they already knew what they would find. That confidence comes from paperwork, surveillance, and confidential informants working behind the scenes. Someone fed them the blueprint. Inside that Airbnb was a scene federal agents later described as a fully operational distribution site, not a casual stash. 17 kilograms of fentanyl sat wrapped on the kitchen stove.
We believe that Diaz's connection to California is significant because we know, as mentioned earlier, the Mexican drug cartels smuggle fentanyl into our country over the southwest border.
These drugs like fentanyl, cocaine, they poison our community, but they have second-order effects and spillover effects like addiction, like overdose, like violent crime in our community.
With more bricks tucked inside duffel bags in the bedroom. In total, the feds counted 21 kilograms, enough to wipe out entire communities.
It's coming from the cartel and these organizations. It's coming from a source coming into the country and then distributed on a local level in these communities like Athens, like Macon in the Middle District of Georgia, hitting the street and then being distributed by gangs and local distributors. And that flow of drugs, that's not an opinion, that's a fact. You can trace the pattern, and that's how drugs flow through our community.
That alone upgrades a case from serious to catastrophic. But it wasn't just the product. They found nearly $380,000 in cash, some stacked openly, some hidden inside luxury bags with tags still attached. They found money counters, vacuum sealers, packaging tools, all signs of a high-level operation.
The individuals who profit the most from that distribution are often not in our country, and they're profiting, making the most money out of it. That's the problem.
And then there was the Glock 19 resting nearby, completing the image of a setup run by someone who didn't expect to be interrupted. One detail that shocked investigators was the branding on the fentanyl bricks, designer logos, including Louis Vuitton, stamped onto poison. It was the twisted collision of street life and luxury culture. The exact same brand Future wears in his videos and on magazine covers was being used to decorate deadly product in his brother's distribution hub. The symbolism was almost cinematic. When agents first approached, Casino and a woman attempted to slip out the side door. It wasn't happening. Homeland Security agents detained him almost immediately. He had $4,000 cash in his pocket money compared to what was inside. But the most alarming discovery wasn't physical, it was digital. According to internal notes from investigators, Casino was tied to David Alito Diaz, a man from California with connections well outside Georgia. That interstate link is what instantly turned this into a federal conspiracy case. Anytime product crosses state lines, the government steps in with full power. And here's the part most people missed. This raid was not independent. It wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger, coordinated sweep targeting networks moving fentanyl into the Southeast. The feds weren't just cleaning up a neighborhood. They were targeting supply chains that stretched across the country, and the Wilburn family had somehow landed right in the blast radius. This wasn't the kind of stumble someone recovers from. This was the kind of case the government uses to send messages. And all while this was happening, Future was in Miami, living inside a mansion purchased with a $70 million catalog sale, unaware, or maybe deeply aware, that the people closest to him were still tied to a world he had long since left behind. But the question now humming through Atlanta is simple. Did Future try to pull his brother out of this life? Or was the distance between them already too wide to fix? Because the deeper this story goes, the more it looks like a family split by success, silence, and choices no one wanted to confront until it was too late. When Future sold his music catalog in 2022 for an estimated $65 to $75 million, it wasn't just a business move. It was a generational shift. The kind of money that changes family trees, not just bank accounts. The type of wealth people from his background aren't supposed to touch unless something miraculous happens. After the sale, Future bought a $16 million Miami waterfront mansion, a palace designed to erase every memory of the Atlanta struggle he came from. Floor-to-ceiling windows, ocean views, designer furniture, exotic cars lined up outside. From the outside, it looked like the final chapter of a success story. But if you zoom out, that mansion was also the moment the distance between Future and the people who helped shape his rise grew wider than ever. Casino wasn't just a brother. He was part of the engine that kept free bands moving while Future toured, recorded, and built the brand. He handled the ground-level operations, the quiet tasks that kept the machine alive. He was the person Future trusted to hold Atlanta down. But something happened between 2020 and 2025, something that caused Future and Casino's paths to drift so far apart that while Future was lounging in luxury, Casino was allegedly hiding out in an Airbnb surrounded by kilos, cash, and federal surveillance. That's not normal separation. That's a fracture. The cracks were there long before the feds kicked in that door. One of the earliest warning signs was the death of young Scooter in 2020, a free band-affiliated friend whose passing shook everyone close to the camp. His death wasn't a shootout or rival beef. It was a tragic accident born from fear and chaos inside a trap house. That moment should have been a turning point, a wake-up call for anyone still tied to the streets. Instead, it became the beginning of a pattern. Other FBG associates started popping up in arrest records. Old tensions resurfaced. Money disputes whispered their way through the circle. People felt overlooked, others felt abandoned, and Future's success only amplified that tension. Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people never say out loud. When one man from the hood suddenly jumps into a different tax bracket, it doesn't just change his life, it changes the gravity of everyone around him. Some people orbit closer, some get pushed away, and some break under the pressure of watching someone they grew up with become untouchable. Future's rise wasn't soft, it wasn't gradual, it was meteoric, and everyone in FBG felt that heat differently. But the most haunting part of this story is the fact that Future's income explosion didn't stop the people closest to him from staying tied to the streets. Think about that. This wasn't a situation where the money wasn't there. The money was overflowing. Future could have shifted his entire circle into real estate, trucking, studios, legitimate jobs, brand deals, anything to pull them out of danger. So why didn't he? Some say Future tried, but certain people refused to leave the grind. Some say jealousy and pride pushed the brothers apart. Some say Future wanted distance because he saw trouble coming. Some say Casino felt overshadowed and wanted something that was his. And others whisper something darker, that someone in the circle was feeding information to avoid going down with everyone else. Nothing is confirmed, but when federal agents walk into a house like they already know what's inside, somebody gave them a map. What we do know is this: Future made it out, Casino didn't. And the gap between those two realities is where this entire tragedy lives. By the time federal agents arrived at that Forest Park Airbnb, they weren't coming in blind. They were closing the final chapter of an investigation that had been unfolding quietly for months. Federal conspiracy cases work like slow-burning fuses, long stretches of silence, patience, surveillance, and digital tracking until the moment comes when everything finally ignites. And for Casino, that ignition happened the instant those agents lined up outside the property. Inside the house, investigators found exactly what their paperwork suggested they would. On the kitchen stove sat 17 tightly wrapped kilograms of fentanyl, not tucked away, not hidden behind walls, but sitting out like merchandise ready to be moved. Another 4 kilograms were discovered throughout the home, bringing the total to 21. That's the kind of quantity that makes federal agents use words like mass casualty potential. This wasn't neighborhood-level distribution. This was product on a scale that alarms national agencies. But it wasn't just the amount that made the room fall silent. Some of the bricks were stamped with Louis Vuitton logos, designer symbols pressed into deadly poison. It was the strangest collision of luxury branding and lethal street product anyone could imagine. And the irony hit even harder knowing Future publicly lives in real designer everything, while his own brother allegedly handled fentanyl wrapped in the same logos. 2 worlds linked by a label, but separated by consequences. Everywhere the agents turned, the scene reinforced what they already suspected. Bundles of cash, nearly $380,000 worth, were stacked across the bedroom and tucked inside high-end bags. Money counters and vacuum sealers sat on tables and countertops, the kind of equipment you only buy when the cash flow becomes too heavy to manage by hand. A Glock 19 rested nearby, completing the image of a fully functioning distribution base. And yet, the most important clue wasn't found inside the house at all. It was parked right outside. One of the vehicles at the scene belonged to David Alito Diaz, a man from California with no personal ties to Georgia. That single discovery changed the entire trajectory of the case. A California supplier at a Georgia stash house doesn't signal local hustling. It signals an interstate trafficking pipeline. And once a case crosses state lines, federal agencies treat it like organized crime. Suddenly, Casino wasn't just a suspect. He was now part of a larger network the government intended to dismantle. Operation Takeback America wasn't created to chase small-time dealers. It was built to tear down entire supply chains, cross-state networks, cartel-aligned distributors, and major nodes that move product in bulk. The moment Casino appeared on their radar, it was because he fit the blueprint of someone they wanted removed from the equation. What makes this even more unsettling is what investigators revealed afterward. They had intercepted calls, location intel, and confidential information pointing directly to that Airbnb. They didn't guess. They didn't assume. They knew. And that leads to the hardest truth in cases like this. When federal agents walk into a house already knowing what's behind every door, someone, somewhere, gave them the roadmap. Long before Casino was caught inside that Airbnb, long before federal agents filled out their search warrants, the warning signs were already appearing, loud, tragic, and impossible to ignore. Casino wasn't on yachts or private jets. He wasn't investing in tech, real estate, or restaurants. According to the paperwork, he was still deep inside the same grind he'd been tied to long before Future became a superstar. This created a split. Not just physical distance, but emotional and psychological distance too. One brother lived above the clouds, the other stayed in the storm. And this raises the question nobody wants to ask. Why didn't Future pull his people out when he got that kind of money? The internet loves simple explanations. He abandoned them. He changed. He forgot where he came from. But the truth behind family dynamics is never that clean. Maybe Future did try to help and Casino didn't want the help. Maybe pride got in the way. Maybe Casino felt he needed his own identity separate from his superstar brother. Or maybe there was real tension brewing inside the family long before the money arrived. What makes everything even more complicated is that Free Bands wasn't just a music label. It was a family ecosystem, a structure built from the streets, loyalty, and the idea that everyone would rise together. But when Future's trajectory shot into a different universe, the structure didn't elevate with him. Instead, it cracked. Young Scooter dead, other FBG members in trouble, Casino hiding out in Airbnbs with kilos in cash, Future living in mansions overlooking the Atlantic. The contrast between their worlds grew sharper every year. And while Future was celebrated as Atlanta royalty, his brother was moving weight in a way that guaranteed federal eyes would eventually land on him. It's a painful reminder of a truth many artists face. You can escape the environment, but the people you love might not be ready or able to escape with you. By the time Casino was sitting inside that Airbnb surrounded by fentanyl bricks, cash, and a Glock, the divide between him and Future had become something far larger than a family disagreement. It was a symbol of how success, real, life-changing success, can reshape relationships in ways that nobody prepares you for. People love to say, when you make it, you take your people with you. But they never talk about what happens when the people you love don't want to leave the life they came from. Future's rise wasn't normal. It wasn't steady. It was explosive. He went from recording in dim studios in Atlanta to becoming one of the biggest artists of a generation. And when that catalog sale hit, everything changed. Generational wealth changes a man. It creates distance, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. You go from survival mode to investment meetings, from worrying about police lights to worrying about portfolio diversification. Your world becomes different, even if your heart tries to stay in the same place. But for Casino, the streets didn't loosen their grip, and maybe he didn't want them to. Maybe the identity he built in Atlanta gave him a sense of control he didn't feel when standing next to Future, the global superstar. Maybe working inside Free Bands wasn't enough to satisfy the hunger for something that felt like his. Pride can twist a man's path more powerfully than poverty ever could. The saddest part is that Casino's situation wasn't the only warning sign. Meanwhile, Future was building mansions, traveling the world, and shaping a legacy that placed him in the upper tier of hip-hop history. He wasn't the same man anymore. Success demands evolution. And in that evolution, the emotional ties that held the family together began stretching thinner. But here's the truth nobody can ignore. While Future ascended, Casino stayed grounded in a world that was collapsing under its own weight. And when one brother rises while the other remains surrounded by danger, the bond between them becomes fragile, no matter how strong it once was. Can someone truly escape the streets if the people closest to them never did? Future built an empire, but empires don't guarantee protection, they don't guarantee unity, and they definitely don't guarantee loyalty. What happened to Casino is more than a federal case. It's a mirror held up to the music industry, to fame, to family, and to the cost of survival in a world where one wrong choice lasts forever. Stay locked in. And before you go, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another breakdown.